Dawn usually finds number one somewhere west of Maryland, passing the occasional depot on their way to the Mississippi River. There's plenty of business on the West End.
We shoot for a 3 o'clock call here at Maryland, and it varies from 3 to 6 in the morning. And then when we leave here, like I say, we have industries we switch going west, which is mainly every day is Magnum Timber at Hickston, and usually our next stop would be Taylor. It's the Badger Sand Mine Company out of Taylor, Wisconsin. And then we have Ashley Furniture out of Arcadia, and then we arrive at East Winona, where we interchange our cars to the BN Railroad, and then we have the pickup that the BN receives to us that we take from there.
At Arcadia, number one usually works Ashley Furniture, whose plant straddles the GBW main. They seldom work Ashley on the eastbound trip because of the facing point switches. For the last 20 miles to the Mississippi, number one follows a remote, meandering path through the Trempealeau River Valley.
When you travel out on the West End, once you get out beyond, I would say Independence area, starting to the Arcadia area, going west, there's a lot of wildlife out in that area as far as deer and geese and ducks, and quite a few bald eagles are out there. And it just seemed like it was so much freedom. You run down through the marshes and stuff, and I really enjoyed that. It was just like no bosses, no pressure, just a lot of freedom.
The GBW crossed the Mississippi River for the last time in 1985 when the Winona Bridge was condemned. Now, the end of the line is East Winona, milepost 212. Here, number one delivers their train to the Burlington Northern, blocked by eastbound and westbound destinations, which the GBW crews call Souths and Norths. The westbound cars will follow a route to the Twin Cities surveyed by the Green Bay, Winona, and St. Paul in 1882, and built by the Chicago, Burlington, and Northern 4 years later. This line once hosted many legendary trains of the Burlington route and its affiliates. The Twin Cities Zephyrs, the Empire Builder, the North Coast Limited. Sadly, this fast, scenic line along the Mississippi went freight only in 1971 with the creation of Amtrak. But there are plenty of freight trains on the BN's route from Chicago to Minneapolis and Seattle.
Do you want me to cut this crossing here, or do you want me to just cut them off and put a switch? Oh, I suppose you could just cut them off by the crossing there, just to be safe. Roger.
Okay, when we pull into East Winona there, we have double track or runaround track, and we pull our train in on one of the tracks, whichever way it's lined. We can go either way. We leave our train there, and then we go around a curve where there's another single track with a small runaround. And we gather up these cars because they were set out by the BN for us on our return trip. And we do our switching down there for our shorts. We call valley shorts for the towns on the way back to Maryland, like I had said, Arcadia, Taylor, or Magnum, possibility Hickston. And then we still have cabooses on our train, so after we're done with our switching and we get our new track warrant and stuff, then we proceed on out to the east and we get our caboose off of the train we pulled in, and then we start our trip back towards Maryland.
Once they have their caboose, they depart as train number 2. All through the Trempealeau River Valley and beyond, number 2 roars through towns named for the pioneers who built the GBW. Marshland, Dodge, Blair, Taylor, Maryland, Hetfield. Alco's double-stack containers and cabooses seem an unlikely mix, but it happens every day thanks to the BN's intermodal terminal in Green Bay. Here at Marshland, the GBW once crossed the Northwestern's line from Wyville to Winona. GBW and St. P trains took this line to Winona until the Winona Bridge Company completed its swing span across the Mississippi in 1891. GBW trains used the Northwestern to reach La Crosse until 1922. Later, the line hosted the Dakota 400. It was abandoned in 1977.
How come the Green Bay and Western still using cabooses when everybody else seems to have foregone them?
I think the biggest reason we still have the cabooses is because we weren't able to come up with an agreement that would get rid of them that wasn't costly to the railroad. They have to make some changes on the engines before they can get rid of them. And I think with the sale coming up, they just said, we've got the cabooses, we're going to use them and we're not going to modify the engine. So they haven't modified the engine, so therefore the cabooses are still there. I think it's a safe thing that we have a caboose on the train, and it also is more convenient for meeting trains, getting the switch behind us. We don't have to back up and pose a dangerous situation backing up over crossings or unprotected areas. So I believe it's a safe way to operate. I guess I like to ride the caboose, knowing that cabooses are really a dying thing. There aren't many left anymore. So I kind of enjoy the little part of America that's still here on the Green Bay and Western.
Only 5 GBW depots still stand at trackside, and Whitehall has the best one. Built in 1914, it now houses a local historical society. On its way to the Mississippi, the Trempealeau River carves a gentle course through the coulees of western Wisconsin. This made life easier for the railroad's builders who followed the Trempealeau from Hixton to Marshland. But there's a price. Floodwaters often carry away part of the railroad. Gary Neinfeldt recalls a particularly nasty storm in September of 1992.
I was on the job when we went west that day out of Maryland, and the water was coming up, which they had a lot of warnings out that we'd have to be watching for the flash flood. And Arcadia was the first, they figured one of our first areas that we'd have to be watching. And we got to Arcadia that day. The water already down by the Ashley Furniture Company was approximately getting about 3 inches over the rail already. And they were talking to me when we were there. They didn't know if they would let us come through on the way back, because we have floodgates there in Arcadia that they swing shut over the rail. I kind of begged or talked to the officers and who was in charge if they would leave them open for 2 hours because we'd be back. I'd like to get home. But we got out to Winona, and when I called in for our new warrant, they informed us that they shut the gates. We must have sat there about 2 hours, and then our president or head of the company made a decision that they would just tie our trains up right there. They didn't know what they were going to do. So they deadheaded a section truck out to pick us up, which brought us back here to Maryland. We sat there, I believe it was pretty close to 3 days, if I'm not mistaken.
The treacherous Trempealeau spared the timber bridge at Blair, but just a few hundred feet east, it took out the roadbed and a good part of Highway 95. Floodwaters rushed through town and damaged many homes and businesses. The railroad was quickly repaired, only to be washed away a few months later in the rain-soaked summer of '93. Keeping the West End above water has always been and always will be a battle.